Have you ever wondered what it's like to witness a murder?
Forrest grabbed the knife and then just stabbed Johnny in one motion.
Or how it feels to be shot?
I was immediately hit by a barrage of bullets.
Or how you would react if your spouse hired someone to kill you?
And he was to put me in a grave with a bullet wound on my head.
These are the stories you'll hear on the podcast called What Was That Like? True stories told by the actual person who went through it. You'll hear from a stalking victim.
Came back upstairs, and when I came back and turned the corner into my room, I saw him standing there.
You'll hear from a man who was kidnapped and tortured.
I would do anything, say anything, to simply get away.
And you'll hear actual 911 calls.
Take a deep
Oh my God!
Take a deep breath.
Oh my God!
Take a deep
Oh my God!
Real people in unreal situations. Search for What Was That Like on any podcast app or at whatwasthatlike.com.
This podcast contains adult themes and language, and some of the things that we discuss may be disturbing to some listeners. In this podcast, we discuss sexual assault, torture, race, and murder. Listener discretion is advised. Please take care of yourself.
Welcome to Fruitloops, episode 221. Bienvenidos, bitches, and buiti binafi.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening and being here. Fruitloops is a podcast about true crimes committed by people of color and those who are othered, and more importantly, it's about the victims. Because contrary to popular belief, not all serial killers are straight, cisgender, white dudes.
What?
No! Yes! would you believe it? So these crimes rarely get any public attention because the news is racist, allegedly.
And we are Wendy and Beth. She's Wendy, a Black Latinx woman, and I'm Beth, and I just happen to be white. We're not journalists, investigators, or psychologists, just a couple of gals interested in true crime. Also, the opinions expressed in this podcast are just that, our opinions.
All right, so who are we talking about today, Beth?
Well, today we're talking about Kendrell Lavar Lyles, known as the man who killed Muhlaysia Booker. But he also killed another woman and another man.
Okay. Well, before we get into it, how you doing? Oh, wait a minute. There's an extra person here. Who is that? What's going on?
Hi. It's me. It's Minnie.
Wait a minute. It's
Minnie!
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yes, wonderful. Well, Minnie, why don't you tell us how you doing?
Oh, I'm doing good. I've got my sister Beth here visiting me in Canada.
Yep.
It's really great to have her here. We've been having a lot of fun just hanging out and chatting and, watching shows.
Doing sister stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. And hanging out with Antonio. We're all just been watching shows together, going to the mall,
Yeah. Nice.
The usual.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. I love a good sister time. And
yeah.
how you doing?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Who, me? Little me?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm great. I'm getting over my cold, and I'm visiting Minnie, and I'm in Canada.
Nice.
So, yeah, nothing could be better.
That is so wonderful. Well, I'm doing great. It's Black History Month, and I just love Black History Month. Love learning the Black facts.
Yeah.
I love going everywhere and saying it to everybody for no reason. And I'm saying it to you. Happy Black History Month, listener. So now, let's get into some listener letters.
Well, hello, angels.
Hello, angels.
Thank you. They came in hot today.
They sure did. Better
Angels
turn
coming
it
in
down
hot.
a notch. Still dialing it in. All right, Beth, what's in that bag?
Well, I wanted to say thank you to Sarah for your email. It really made our day.
Yeah, it did.
Sarah's a teacher and likes our Culture Corners, and they have a shout out that they shared with us that we will share with you at the end of the episode.
Oh.
And then I wanted to say thank you to Dr. Joe Davis for your voicemail. Stay tuned.
Yes, thank you.
And thanks to Jenny for your email.
Yes, everybody's been so, we love when you guys get back at us and let us know, because we're like, I'm in a closet right now and you guys are in bedrooms, right? Like,
yeah,
so we're just
exactly.
talking and you don't know like what people are thinking necessarily. So it is so wonderful. But we want to give you all a hip hop air horn.
Yeah, thank you.
Woo! Thanks, everybody.
All right. Well,
so anyway, please send any questions or comments to fruitloopspod@gmail.com or leave us a voicemail at
602-935-6294.
And we may feature it on a future episode, but if you don't want us to, just let us know and we won't.
That's right. No new Patreons this week, but just a reminder, we have so much stuff over there. And we do something every month with the listeners. So what else happens? You get all kinds of like bonus, ad-free stuff. So check it out.
Do an extra every week and
news, true crime news every week.
Ad-free episodes.
Yeah. Merch. Come on now. You want level up that drip. So now we're going to take a quick break and we're going to get into the story when we come back. Fruitloops Serial Killers of Color is sponsored by BetterHelp.
Around New Year's, we get obsessed with how to change ourselves instead of just expanding on what we're already doing right.
That's right. So think about, where are you already crushing it? And think of some things that you might want to keep the same about yourself and your life in 2024.
Maybe you finally organized one part of your space and you want to tackle another.
Oh, man, relax. Or maybe you're taking your supplements every morning and now you want to actually eat breakfast too.
So therapy helps you find your strengths, not just, where you're having trouble. So you can ditch the extreme resolutions and make changes that really stick.
So we here at Fruit Loops have all used BetterHelp, and it was just what we needed and worked really well for us. For me, it was right on time, and I knew that I needed help. I got in touch with a therapist online, lickety-split, and cut to now I've learned to love myself and be kinder to myself, which has improved my relationships and how I get through the day.
And it's helpful for learning positive coping skills and how to set boundaries. It empowers you to be the best version of yourself. And it isn't just for those who've experienced major trauma.
Right. So celebrate the progress you've already made. Visit betterhelp.com/fruit today to get 10% off your first month.
That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/fruit.
Boss is here.
Military parents never miss a beat, and neither does the Johns Hopkins U.S. Family Health Plan. Built for every warrior in your family. With more than 40 years of service to military families, TRICARE Prime benefits plus exclusive extras. Learn more at warriorsathome.com.
All right. We are back. Remind us, Beth, who is our subject today?
Our subject today is Kendrell Lavar Lyles, a serial killer who murdered at least 3 people, including Muhlaysia Booker.
All right. Well, we're going to move on to the section we call Love and Light, where we just say rest and power to the victims and love and light to the loved ones and communities left in the wake of this tragic case. So the victims are Muhlaysia Booker, a 22-year-old Black trans woman from Dallas, Chinal Lindsay, a 26-year-old Black trans woman from Dallas, Leticia Grant, 35, a Black woman who I couldn't find any information about.
Yeah, I couldn't either.
Like where she was from,
Nothing.
Anything. Yeah. So if you're listening and you know Leticia Grant or know of her, give us a call, send us an email. We would love more information about her. And also Kenneth Sichaki. I wasn't able to find much about Kenneth either.
I had some information that I put in the script. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, now we're going to get into the setting because we think that context matters when discussing crimes involving marginalized folks. So take us to the setting, Beth.
Well, the setting is Dallas, Texas, located in north central Texas in the United States. It lies along the Trinity River near the junction of that river's three forks. The area was the traditional territory of multiple Native American tribes.
Most notably, it was inhabited by the Caddo, Wichita, and nomadic tribes such as the Comanche and Kiowa, and ancestral tribes including the Arquicosa, Atacapa, Karankawa, and Tawakoni, among others.
The city was founded after the violent removal of the Native American tribes in the area. Today, there are about 20,000 urban Native Americans in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. And then a quick culture corner, because, I live in Stone Mountain, a place with a complicated, terrible history.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the spirit of, when you go to Stone Mountain, there's like a spiritual connection to the land. And even though the area was perverted by those actions, the spiritual connections to the land still remain.
Still there.
And they're still glorious. Yeah. So I just wanted to say that about Dallas, and every single place we cover, that it's complicated, but there's still much to appreciate about it.
Yes, yeah. Texas has a strong ranching tradition, which has had a significant influence on American cowboy culture. Following Texas independence in 1836, many Americans immigrated into the ranching areas of Texas.
The settlers were strongly influenced by the Mexican vaquero culture. Vaquero is a Spanish word for cattle herder. Texans borrowed vocabulary and attire for them. Cultural appropriation.
Oh,
but also,
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Kool-Aid and a cultural appropriation coming through. But also retained some of the livestock handling traditions and culture of the eastern United States and Great Britain.
The Texas cattle ranching industry is still a major contributor to the Texas economy, providing an estimated $12.4 billion in cash receipts for Texas farmers and ranchers, and having an overall economic impact around $27 billion for Texas. But we'll get into racism in farming and ranching at a different episode.
But I had no idea before researching this that the cattle ranching industry was still so big in Texas.
Yeah.
I should have known, but I didn't.
Yeah. Remember when they sued Oprah?
No. They sued Oprah?
Well, the beef industry did.
Huh.
What?
Because she said she said, don't eat beef anymore. She went to trial and everything. That's when she got hooked up with Dr. Phil. Come on, you guys. You don't know your Oprah history?
No, I guess I missed that class.
Oh, my God. Well,
that's crazy.
Okay.
Good thing. Straighten us out, Wendy.
Yeah, straighten us out.
No problem.
So this industry also serves as an important source of employment for Texans, providing an estimated 85,000 jobs throughout the state. The state is number one in beef cattle production in the United States, and Texas is home to 248,800 farms and ranches, totaling 130.2 million acres. Holy shit.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Texan cowboy is symbolic to the state's image.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Right. It invokes images of Beyonce. She's from Texas.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
She loves dressing up in that symbolic Texas, hat and boots and tassels and stuff. Anyway, quick culture corner. Remember that scene with Sidney Poitier? He goes, "They call me Mr. Tibbs."
Yes.
I think somebody tried to call him boy.
Oh, that's
and
right.
some people believe the word cowboy has roots as a racist derogatory term to describe Black ranch workers and cowhands. The word has been used as a racial slur towards Black, full-grown ass adult men to belittle them, the boy, and emasculate them.
Yeah.
That's it.
The cowboy mentality is soaked in traditional masculinity, marked by stoicism, competitiveness, dominance, and aggression. Basically, the embodiment of toxic masculinity. These traits can contribute to pernicious attitudes and behaviors towards women and other marginalized groups, and are actually harmful to the men themselves.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, emotional suppression can lead to a rejection of empathy toward others. If you don't understand your own feelings, then you don't understand the feelings of others.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Oh, bars. Oh, my God.
So the result of that, the rejection of empathy toward others, is that they repackage their nurturing impulses as weak.
Right.
So, and it suppresses mental health issues such as depression, trauma, and anxiety, which can worsen the symptoms of those mental health issues. And controlling and entitlement behaviors result in domestic and social conflict.
Yeah.
Another problem in our society. Oh my God. Interestingly, in Norway, the word Texas is slang for crazy or wild. Which is so funny. It's often used in everyday conversation. It became part of the language when Norwegians started watching cowboy movies and reading Western literature. Oh.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. The genre was extremely popular in Norway, and a lot of it featured Texas. So the word became a symbol of something lawless and without control. It's frequently used in the phrase "help Texas," meaning completely crazy.
Wow.
Oh my God. You never want to go full Texas.
Never go full Texas.
Don't.
Dallas was founded in 1841 by John Neely Bryan as a small trading post along the Trinity River. The construction of railroads in the late 19th century transformed the city into a regional center for commerce and agriculture.
Dallas's growth was accelerated by the discovery of oil. Bitter and oil. This is oil country. In the early 20th century, eventually Dallas became a major center of the cotton, railroad, merchant, oil, and financial industries.
The city has historically been predominantly white, but its population diversified as it grew in size and importance over the 20th century. The largest ethnic group in the city is Latinx, and many Black folks have been moving to Dallas for its affordable cost of living and job opportunities.
The greater Dallas metro area has the largest number of LGBTQ plus people in Texas, about 211,000.
Wow.
And the sixth largest in the United States. Yeah, that's huge.
Wow.
Just 3 years after the riots at Stonewall shed light on the discrimination of the LGBTQ plus community, Dallas's own LGBTQ plus citizens gathered in a crowd of about 300 to march through downtown in the 1972 Dallas Pride Parade.
Wow.
Today, it's called the Allen Ross Texas Freedom Parade and is a yearly event held in June.
Wow, that is so dope.
Yeah.
Texas ain't that far away.
Yeah.
So there is also a second parade in September called Pride in Dallas. And the city also hosts multiple celebrations throughout the year to highlight specific groups within the larger queer community, such as Dallas Southern Pride, an annual celebration for Black LGBTQ plus people, and Texas Latino Pride. And it should be noted, we're 3 cisgender women, and we're not of the trans experience.
Right.
But we definitely are in community with people of the trans experience and are just continuing our learning so we can be better allies and fight for all of our liberation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yes.
So in 2018, Dallas became the first city in Texas to become officially recognized for its LGBTQ neighborhood in Oak Lawn. The Texas Historical Commission recognized the history of this neighborhood as being a place of community gathering and marked the corner of Cedar Springs Road and Throckmorton Street with a historical plaque.
Less than half of the states in the U.S. expressly prohibit gender identity discrimination in employment, housing, and public accommodations under state law. Texas is not one of them. This leaves transgender people in Texas and many other parts of the country particularly vulnerable to mistreatment.
Our trans fam face barriers to finding well-paid, secure jobs in Texas, where it is legal under state law to fire employees based on their sexual orientation. Because of family rejection and discrimination in education and employment, many transgender people have limited employment options.
This means that many trans people have little choice but to survive and engage in survival work, which can be unsafe. Transgender people also face higher rates of poverty and housing insecurity, limiting their ability to leave situations where they are exposed to violence.
Texas is also among states where transgender people have been targeted with a relentlessly increasing number of laws and policies, including restrictions on gender-affirming care, public bathroom use, and participation in sports, which is just, I can't wrap my brain around
why they care. I don't get it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a really great podcast that I've shouted out before called Trans Media. And it was started after this epidemic of the murder against trans people started to make the news.
Right.
And it's a really good podcast to listen to and learn about why they are going after trans people. A lot of it has to do with anti-Blackness and how bodies exist outside of the white, hetero, cis, Christian, male,
Right.
I'm not giving it the credit it deserves. Just go listen to it. But anyway, Translash. So Tori Cooper, Director of Community Engagement for the Human Rights Campaign, or HRC, Transgender Justice Initiative, said she hopes Muhlaysia Booker's story helps shine light on violence against transgender people, saying, quote, "This is just one of hundreds of cases that we've reported on over the years. And those are just the cases that we know about," unquote. Because oftentimes they're misgendered, so it doesn't even get reported as violence against transgender people, and violence against transgender people, if like on that video with Muhlaysia, those guys didn't even think they did anything wrong.
Right.
They thought they were doing something, good.
Or they just didn't give a shit. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's the reason for the underreporting.
Since 2013, the HRC's Public Education and Research Team has identified at least 334 transgender and gender nonconforming people killed by violence across the U.S. Of those, 75% have been transgender women of color, and almost 62% have been Black transgender women.
Wow.
And HRC said almost 10% of those killings happened in Texas, more than in any other state.
Wow.
Wow.
That is a sobering statistic.
It is.
Wow.
Yeah. Activists believe that much of the blame lies with a hostile political climate. Do you think? During Trump's administration, which was heavily supported by religious conservatives, there was an attempt to roll back all of the Obama-era protections for trans people in the military, in healthcare, in schools, and in homeless shelters.
Monica Roberts, a Black trans woman, writer, and advocate for the Houston, said, quote, "The evangelical movement and conservative movement were feeling like they needed a victory in the culture war, so they decided to start picking on trans folks starting in about 2015. Ever since the Trump administration came in, it has been increasing. You're putting all this hatred out. It doesn't just go away in a vacuum. People will act on it. And they have been," unquote. No lies detected.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
None. Not a one.
Between 2014 and 2019, more transgender people were killed in Texas than in any other state. More than California, which has a higher population, more than New York with its highly visible LGBTQ community, and more than Florida, which dealt with a spate of murders in 2018. Nearly half of the deaths occurred in Dallas.
Wow.
That's nuts.
Wow. Well, let's get into the early life of Kendrell Lavar Lyles. Wait a minute.
What you got, Minnie?
Well, we could find nothing. We found nothing. We found nothing about Lyle's early life or really anything about him, except that he worked for a while as a dishwasher at the University of Texas at Dallas. That's all we know.
That's
all we know.
Yeah.
So let's get into the timeline, shall we? Splish splash.
Go.
So 22-year-old Muhlaysia Booker, a trans woman who lived in Dallas, was a fierce advocate against trans violence. She's been described by her friends and family as a nurturer who took care of her community and loved to make people laugh. She was energetic and loved and a great friend and mother to her quote-unquote children, and making sure they were fed and had a safe place to sleep. And they, quote, stayed looking gorgeous, unquote.
That's so sweet.
It is so sweet. Just a quick thing about welcome to Culture Corner with Wendy and Beth. In the LGBTQ plus community, there are chosen families, which I'm not sure is a term everybody understands. People who find each other and accept and love each other with shared experiences. And in that unit, that family unit, individuals may take on roles like father, mother, or sister, not necessarily based on like biology or legal stuff, but rather the bonds of love and support.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes LGBTQ plus youth are rejected from their
biological family.
Family of origin. Yeah.
Exactly.
And so chosen families are really
Mhm.
important for the
Important,
survival
yeah.
of the,
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
community.
Yeah.
Mhm.
A month before her murder on April 12th, 2019, Muhlaysia made national news when a video showing her being beaten by several men as a crowd of onlookers laughed and cheered on her attackers went viral.
That first attack happened after Muhlaysia was involved in a minor fender bender in her South Dallas apartment complex, bumping into another car as she was backing out to leave. The other driver blocked Muhlaysia's car. Oh my God, that's terrifying. Holding her at gunpoint and refusing to let her leave until she gave him money to pay for the damage to his car. Yikes.
Yeah, that is terrifying. As the two argued, a crowd gathered and someone pulled out a cell phone and began recording the confrontation. Nobody called police. Nobody
Yeah.
called ambulance. Someone allegedly offered a 29-year-old man named Edward Thomas $200 to beat up Muhlaysia.
Oh,
I vaguely remember the video. I'm trying not to watch
remember the
videos of
video.
people
It was
get
horrible.
harmed.
Yeah.
But her attackers were Black men, weren't they?
Mhm. I think so, yeah.
And so, we talked about toxic masculinity at the top of the episode, and that is an issue within, the Black community as well. But Thomas offered to beat up Muhlaysia, and the crowd closed in around, laughing and jeering and shouting transphobic and homophobic slurs as Thomas assaulted this young woman.
oh my God.
Mm-hmm.
That's heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So awful. Then other men joined in, punching and kicking and stomping Muhlaysia as she lay huddled on the ground. By the time several women stepped in to stop the attack, and it took women
Yeah.
to step in to stop the attack
Yeah.
and help Muhlaysia to safety, she had suffered a concussion, fractured wrists, and numerous other injuries.
That's so upsetting. I just,
Yeah.
I hate these kinds of things. It's, and I don't understand the I guess the fear that I guess it takes for. I mean, anger is
It's a
these
secondary
kinds of aggressive
emotion.
acts are
think
based
it's
in
fear.
right? So they're
I think-
afraid.
yeah,
So, but I don't understand what they're afraid of because it's like
What
no
they
one's
don't-
making
Right.
making you be any different,
Right.
It's just
What-
frustrating to me.
There's an activist
Yeah.
that I follow on Instagram. His name is Alok, and it's ALOK, a transgender nonconforming person. But follow Alok on Instagram. Anyway, Alok does all of these speaking engagements, and Alok's perspective is that it is a fear of what might be in them. Like the toxic masculinity suppressed those emotions of caring, etc., and nurturing, and that they're afraid of just being in the vicinity of that. I think
So
it makes
weird.
them
Yeah.
feel
Yeah.
bad. And again,
It's
if
really
we're-
hard
if
to
not- if-
understand if you don't, I don't get it. I'm not a
I
toxic.
don't. I don't get it
toxic
either.
man.
I don't get
So
it
I
either.
don't get it. Yeah.
I don't get it either.
Yeah.
So
Someone uploaded this video to social media, and it quickly gained national attention and put a spotlight on the epidemic of violence against the transgender community, especially trans women of color.
Thomas was arrested and charged with aggravated assault. During his trial, Thomas's lawyer, Andrew Wilkerson, repeatedly misgendered and dead-named Muhlaysia in an effort to make the altercation seem like mutual combat between two men. Fuck out of
Wow.
here. He argued that Muhlaysia was at fault,
Ugh.
and he downplayed her injuries as scratches.
Oh
wow.
my God.
What
Yeah.
a piece of basura.
For
Put
sure.
that guy through the same thing and ask him if he thinks it scratches now.
Yeah. No
Yeah,
shit.
seriously.
Yeah. Thomas eventually pleaded guilty to a reduced misdemeanor charge. He was sentenced to 300 days in jail, including time served.
That's it?
That's it.
That's it.
Oh my God.
The weeks of her life after the assault were difficult for Muhlaysia, and she became withdrawn. But speaking at a rally after the beating, Muhlaysia told supporters, quote, "This time I can stand before you, whereas in other scenarios, we are at a memorial," unquote.
It's sad to hear that part with what happens
Mhm.
after.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have you ever wondered about things that go bump in the night, or objects in the sky, or other things you just couldn't explain? Then join me, Jim Mallard, on my podcast, The Mallard Report. Each week, you'll find engaging conversations with guests who are authors, historians, and scholars who lend their expertise as we discuss current events and venture into the fringe and paranormal. The Mallard Report hits controversies head-on, yet remains conversational, and can be found on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and any other major podcast platform.
So when the scammer uses the hypnotic method of building rapport, then they create dysfunctional, delusional reality.
That's how a scam begins. Convincing the mark that it makes perfect sense to hand over their money to a con artist. The Scams and Cons podcast tells you how scams are run. You'll hear how people are convinced to buy fake art, buy machines that print money, or steal your house.
I get a phone call from my wife, and she let me know that they had decided to move all our stuff out. I could no longer do anything about it except go through an eviction.
And you'll hear it from the experts, people who run the cons.
So we go to your bank, you go in and get $6,000 cash, give us each $3,000, we give you this. You go home, and what you find out is cut up newspaper.
It's fun to know how the trick is done, and that's what Scams and Cons is all about. Listen at scamsandcons.com or wherever fine podcasts are found.
On Saturday, May 18th, 2019, at about 6:40 a.m., the body of a Black woman was found laying face down in the 7200 block of Valley Glen Drive. At about 3 p.m. the following day, police issued a statement identifying that woman as Muhlaysia Booker.
Muhlaysia was the fourth transgender woman, all of them Black, to be murdered in 2019. But unlike the earlier murders, her murder immediately garnered national headlines because Muhlaysia had already been the focus of national headlines.
Suspicion immediately focused on Thomas, but he had an airtight alibi and was quickly ruled out as a suspect in her murder.
Funeral services for Muhlaysia Booker were held Tuesday, May 28th at Cathedral of Hope in Dallas, which is said to have the biggest LGBTQ congregation in the world. That's wonderful.
Yeah.
The funeral drew an overflow crowd that included local and state elected officials. Oh, because it was election season.
Yeah.
So they didn't really care. You know, around election season, the politicians, I can't tell you how many politicians I've met at church because they just show up at Black churches during election season.
Right.
Anyway, at least one local news station broadcast the services live from the church.
Several speakers at the memorial service focused on the challenges Muhlaysia faced as a transgender woman and the challenges faced by others in the LGBTQ community. Pastor Stephanie Martin said, quote, "She was a young woman whose life was cut short by hatred," unquote.
Her mother, Stephanie Houston, said the April attack on Muhlaysia wasn't the first. Quote, "Muhlaysia had many fights. Muhlaysia didn't start trouble, but she would finish it. She just always had to defend, unquote. Standing at the altar next to a blue coffin adorned with flowers, Stephanie said, quote, "She was beautiful. She was so beautiful," unquote.
And she was.
Yeah.
By the time of Muhlayshia's funeral, the number of trans women murdered in 2019 had risen to 7. Again, all Black trans women. And I believe we've talked about it on Extra Extra. 4 days after her funeral, 26-year-old Black trans woman Chenal Lindsay's body was found in White Rock Lake.
Chenal Lindsay was from Dallas and was known for her vibrant personality and love of fashion and doing hair. She was determined to live her truth and follow her dreams.
Dallas police began considering the possibility that Muhlasia's and Chenal's murders could be connected, and also connected with a non-fatal knife attack earlier in April on a Black trans woman in Dallas, and with several other murders of trans women in Dallas over the previous several years.
Police redoubled their efforts. Good. LGBTQ liaison Amber Roman met with Abounding Prosperity, Inc., an organization that had stepped in to help Muhlaysia after her April assault, and they contacted Dallas Voice, pleading for anyone with information to step forward.
On May 22nd, 2019, at about 9:30 p.m., police responded to the reports of a shooting at the Chatham Court Apartments on McCallum Boulevard. There they found Leticia Grant, a 35-year-old Black woman, lying on the ground in the parking lot outside of the apartments, suffering from a gunshot wound to the head.
Wow.
She was transported to an area hospital for treatment.
Police said that Lyles had been in communication with Leticia shortly before her death, and that his cell phone pinged in the area where she was found. On May 24, 2019, Leticia died as a result of her injuries. Unfortunately, we could not find any information about Leticia Grant or her life before it was taken.
A little more than 24 hours after Leticia's shooting, 29-year-old Kenneth Sichaki was shot in the AutoZone parking lot just around the corner.
Kenneth was called Chad by his friends and family. He had a twin brother named James, and growing up, the two were inseparable. Chad earned his Associates of Applied Science in Drafting and Design Technology at ITT Tech, graduating with honors.
Described as kind-hearted, caring, and loving, he enjoyed working on crafts and learning new things. He also loved spending time with his niece Madison and hanging out with his twin.
A witness told detectives that on the night Chad was killed, she had been at a nearby laundromat when Lyles came in and started talking to her. They then got into her car and drove to the AutoZone.
After the witness parked, Lyles got out of the car to use the restroom. Moments later, Chad Sichaki leaned into the driver's side window and the witness, quote, almost immediately heard a gunshot, unquote. The witness, who later told police she didn't know why Chad had come up to the car, then drove away.
Facebook messages showed that Chad had been in communication with Lyles about the sale of Xanax. At 10:09 p.m., Chad sent a message saying that he was in the AutoZone parking lot. In 6 minutes later, he was found with a gunshot wound to his neck. Chad died 6 days later.
That's nuts. I mean, these two people were killed one after the other, one day after the other, and seemingly for no reason.
Right.
Yeah. It's crazy.
That's illuminating, though, that it was over the sale of Xanax. I guess
Xanax,
we didn't know anything about Lyle, but maybe he had a substance issue. I don't know. But
well, for sure, if he was looking for Xanax, he was looking for drugs. So, yeah, probably.
Yeah. Let's get into the investigation and the arrest. Well, Lyles was later picked up in Collin County on some unrelated traffic violations. He was being held under a $1,000 bond on a warrant for driving without a valid driver's license and without insurance, when witnesses came forward and identified him as the person who murdered Leticia Grant.
This information was verified through phone records of communications between Leticia and Lyles at the time of her death. Lyles was then arrested in connection to the murders of Leticia Grant and Kenneth Chad Sichaki.
During the investigation into these murders, detectives realized that Lyles drove the same type of car, a light-colored Lincoln LS, believed to have picked up Muhlaysia Booker near the intersection of Spring and Legao the night she was killed.
A witness told investigators that Lyles frequented the area to meet up with transgender sex workers, and that Muhlaysia had gotten into a vehicle matching the description of Lyles about 3 hours before her body was found.
Investigators then began to analyze data from Lyles' cell phone. That analysis showed that Lyles often frequented the Spring Avenue, Legao Street area, and that he was in that area at the time that Muhlaysia was picked up.
Investigators also found that Lyles and Muhlaysia's phones were traveling together around the time she was killed, and that he likely had her phone in his possession for a time after her murder.
So that's very serial killer behavior to have.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Look at that. On June 12th, Dallas police announced the arrest of Lyles, 34, for the murder of Muhlaysia Booker. Investigators said Lyles was also a person of interest in the murder of Chinal Lindsay, the Black trans woman whose body was found in White Rock Lake on June 1st.
Investigators believed that Lyles was also possibly connected to the death of Armani Dante Morgan, a Black trans woman whose July 2017 death was initially thought to be a suicide, but was then ruled unexplained. Her family has insisted that it was murder.
What? That's wild.
Yeah.
A man named Ruben Alvarado was eventually tried and convicted for Chinal's murder. Armani's death remains unsolved.
All right, it's trial time. So Lyles was charged with 3 counts of murder. In November of 2023, as jury selection was set to begin in his trial when Lyles, who was now 37, entered a guilty plea to the murder of Muhlaysia Booker.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh, wait a minute. I don't have Law and Order on here.
Yeah, there's your Law and Order
Dun, dun.
sound.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Family members and friends submitted victim impact statements. Jordan Ford, a close friend of Muhlaysha's, spoke about Muhlasia's role as a mentor within the LGBTQ plus community and her commitment to raising awareness of the violence transgender people continue to face.
Jordan said that Muhlaysia, quote, refused to be silenced in adversity, unquote, and that she inspired many with her unwavering determination.
Lyles was sentenced to 48 years in prison. Muhlasia's mother, Stephanie Houston, said, quote, no amount of time can bring Muhlaysia back. And although we wish the sentence was capital punishment, our family can finally have some sense of closure, knowing that justice was served and he can't cause any more families hurt or pain, unquote.
Lyles still faced charges for the murders of Leticia Grant and Kenneth Sichaki, but we could find no information about that, so I don't know if they are ever going to bring it to trial or if they brought it to trial. I couldn't find anything about it.
It might be one of those things that, he's already not getting out of jail, so they don't want to dedicate resources to that.
Oh,
good
stick
point.
it in their back pocket.
But if the fruities out there know.
Yeah.
Yeah, if the fruities out there know, let us know.
Yes.
Yeah, let us know. Get at us. So now let's get into where are they now? Tell us, Minnie.
Well, Lyles is currently incarcerated in Texas at the George Beto Unit, a men's maximum security prison located in unincorporated Anderson County. He will be eligible for parole in 2044.
Muhlasia's mom started the Muhlaysia Booker Foundation in her memory. Ahmad Ghori, the president and board chair, said the circumstances leading up to Muhlasia's murder, including the viral video of Muhlaysia being so violently assaulted, brought into reality for many people the violence and danger that Black transgender women face daily.
The video, Muhlasia's brutal death, and the ever-rising toll of death and violence against trans women that followed in their wake, made this murder a national story when so many others have faded into the background.
All right, let's get into what we think made Lyles snap and our takeaways from this case.
So unfortunately, not knowing anything about Lyles's early life, we can only speculate about what might have made him snap.
Yeah, that's true.
It seemed like he often solicited trans sex workers.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah.
I mean, if he often solicited trans sex workers, then he identified with them, and then when he identified with them, he didn't like that he identified with them, and then
like
denial.
The traditional serial killers who hate their moms, and then they kill, like Ted Bundy hated his mom and killed a bunch of women. And we've talked about before
effigy or whatever.
Right? Yeah, they're killing the thing that they hate inside of them.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So he was definitely conflicted.
Yeah,
for sure.
I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm not a medical professional.
No,
so what do
none
I
of
know?
us are. We're just three cis, two straight, one queer ladies on a microphone.
What do we know?
Yeah.
Tell us what you know.
That'll be our next podcast.
Yeah. We don't know anything.
Speaking of things I don't know, I don't know why our society is so unaccepting of anyone who's different.
Mm-hmm.
And especially now in this political climate, it's really bad. And it's disgusting and sad.
Yes.
Yeah. It just feels like people should know better, right?
Yeah.
And we know that everybody's liberation is good for everybody, right? And I just don't understand.
It just seems like bullheadedness to not accept it, Like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
I mean, I know people...
I'm always amazed by people who reform themselves, right?
Yeah.
Or who can change their views, or people who share their stories about, my child came out as trans, and at first I didn't know what to do or how to, react, but
and then they become an ally and
an
somebody,
ally, an advocate,
an advocate,
a lover of a mother. I mean, just there is a way to get there.
Yeah,
and some people are so bullheaded that they just refuse.
And it's I don't get it, but. Yeah, I was just going to say, I know people who just don't believe in psychology. And they don't.
Isn't it insane?
Yeah.
It's like not believing in space. You can't not believe in space.
What else do they believe? The world is flat?
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And all of the things that we've learned over the years, and like how toxic masculinity is bad for everybody, and that they just refuse to accept that. Yeah. So I don't know why he killed Leticia Grant and Chad
specifically
Sachaki.
Those
but
people.
It may have been that once he killed Muhlaysia, maybe it was nothing to kill other people, or maybe he even got a kick out of it. I don't know.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah,
I agree with you. I was just gonna say that the issue of violence against trans people of color continues. And I think there are many factors that could contribute to the violence that we talked about already. But, if trans people are turned away from their birth families and they have limited access to healthcare and employment and housing, and then they have to turn to survival work or sex work. And because society is rejecting them or they're not safe, they have to go into this unsafe environment to survive. And that sucks. And transgender people of color's existence, it should not be a threat.
No,
yeah. And it's really fucked up.
Top of the day, everyone. I'm Nisha.
And I'm Buddha Badass.
And we're the hosts of Hot Garbage True Crime Edition. Do you guys like true crime?
I really don't. I feel like you force me on this show every freaking time I come here.
Do you guys enjoy listening to victims and murderers and grotesque stuff?
People that are sick in the freaking head. That's who likes it. That's who likes it.
Well, if you like that kind of stuff, then you should totally check us out. I mean, every single Thursday, we drop the most hottest cases, and we have fun while doing it.
You drop the most hottest cases? You drop murder and death. Kill.
How many people can actually say that they have fun while listening to a true crime podcast? And I feel like that's what we do here.
So you're just not going to listen to me now? I'm just going to say this and you're not going to listen to me?
And you know what? Our listeners are not just our listeners, but they're our friends and our trash pandas. We love you guys.
They're a lot, and I will agree to that part, but I'm still just mad at you for just not talking to me. They're paying you this well to say all this.
So check out Hot Garbage on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere that you listen to podcasts. Check us out every single Thursday. A new episode drops.
I officially hate this commercial. On some real.
Minnie, any additional thoughts?
Yeah. Well, just so what you were just saying kind of made me think about a few things. It used to be long. So I've been watching this show lately called Harlots.
Oh, yeah. I remember that one.
Yeah. I hadn't watched it before, so it's new to me. But it's essentially, back in the 1700s, if a woman didn't follow the traditional path of getting married to whoever they were told to get married to at whatever age they were told to do it, basically. Or, if they were taken advantage of or even raped or something like that, is like once you're quote unquote spoiled, then their only way to survive, they were kicked out. They were kicked out. They didn't have a place to live. And the only way that they could survive was on the street and doing sex work, And it's kind of similar, when you just to reject a person for not being traditional. And it's like denying them a place to live and food because they are not traditional. It's just, when you break it down to simple terms like that, it's just insanity,
I couldn't agree more.
This one thing we've been talking about while Beth has been visiting is that there is an increasing problem with people not having access to housing, both here in Edmonton and down in Phoenix. And the populations of people who don't have access to housing are growing. And part of that population, people who do have housing and are living traditional lives often just kind of gloss it over with, oh, it's their fault, something they did, whatever, and they don't want to accept that this is something that could happen to anyone, really, if they're rejected by society. And so a lot of the people, or if they, even missing one payment of rent because the cost of housing right now is so insane.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
it's one disaster away from houselessness.
And then you've got to come up with first and last month's rent and security deposit, and at the rents that they are right now, like if you're working in minimum wage, how do you even do that? It's so there's just the populations, and then people being kicked out of their houses because they're transgender. And it's just, I think I remember, I don't know, a few months ago I was talking about this book, My Ishmael, that I was reading. Essentially the idea is that, food, water, shelter, these all should be basic human rights. It shouldn't be the case that we can deny people food and shelter and water,
and be okay with it.
Right. Yeah. Right. This should not be a part of society that we can, lock up food and deny it to people. People should be able to just have food
and punish for trying to meet those needs.
Yes, exactly.
When you're lacking. Yeah.
So anyway, I rambled on for a while.
Oh my God. This discussion wins the discussion award. I loved this. Let us know what you guys think, listeners. And again, I just want to remind people that, we, if during this episode, if we've said anything that, is not cool or in line with allyship or respect, let us know. Because we don't want to cause harm.
We're trying our best to be good allies. This is our desire, is to be good allies.
Yeah.
And if we've made some mistakes, we would love to hear about it so that we can fix those mistakes.
Help us be better.
Yeah. Yes, help us be better. Yes.
Yeah. Thanks, y'all.
Because when you know better, you do better.
That's right.
Boop, 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 boop.
The more you know.
All right. Well, let's get into how not to get murdered. If you love... I'm just kidding.
I'm like, no.
If you love true crime and you don't want to die, here's a tip for you.
This segment is not intended to be victim blaming. We thought of this segment because I read somewhere that a lot of people listen to true crime because they want to know what they can do to be safer. This is not meant to blame the victims. It's just learning from other people's experiences.
So given that the epidemic of violence against trans people continues, and trans people of color, and all the legislation, anti-LGBTQ bills, there were like 300 that went to state and politicians' desks last year in this country. So it's a lot. It's a lot. But the Trevor Project, they have a 24/7 toll-free support line that provides mental health support for LGBTQ youth, while the Lifeline offers support for trans individuals. And the support line telephone number is 866-488-7386. Share it with your trans friends and family and otherwise, because they might know somebody who could benefit from this. And for trans peer support, call the Trans Lifeline at 877-565-8860. That's 877-565-8860. And these numbers will be in the description box. You can also always contact the National Suicide Hotline, 988.
Oh, you can text it too.
Oh, you can text 988. That's right. I did that before. Anyway, also, if you have any information related to the murder of Armani Dante Morgan, you can call the Dallas Police Detective Michael Yerrick, the Special Investigations Unit, because he's with SIU, at 214-671-3677. And you can be anonymous if you want to.
Oh, nice.
Anything to add, ladies?
Nope.
No.
Okay. Well, let's get into the shout out portion of our show where we shout out any content by or about people of color, any marginalized folks, or any true crime goodies. I got a true crime goodie recommended by Sarah, the nice fruity who sent us an email.
Yeah.
And it's the podcast called That's Why We Drink, hosted by two members of the LGBTQ plus community.
Nice.
Where you get your podcasts. Shout out to the movie Rustin. It is an Academy Award nominee about Baynard Rustin. He's a Black gay activist who orchestrated the March on Washington in 1960, and it's really good.
Awesome.
And that's it.
Okay. So I wanted to shout out The Brother's Son on Netflix.
Yeah. I love it.
It's so funny. Yeah, it's an action comedy. It's about two brothers. Their last name is Son, so that's why it's called The Brother's Son. And they're Taiwanese. The older brother was brought up in Taiwan, and their dad is the head of a powerful Taiwanese triad.
Mm-hmm.
And the younger brother grew up in the U.S. with their mom and doesn't know anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
And
that
the older
life.
brother, that life. The older brother was trained to be like an assassin.
Mm-hmm.
And the dad is shot. And so the older brother comes to the U.S. to protect the mom and the younger brother. And then madness ensues. It's great.
Good.
Yeah. Really funny.
Michelle Yeoh. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
She is.
I love her.
She's the best. Oh,
and then
so
Mr. and Mrs. Smith on Prime with Donald Glover.
Yes! I've seen this.
yes.
Have you started watching it? And you enjoy?
Yes, we started watching it. Oh yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, but we've been watching it together while she's been here.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
it's
then I have
fantastic.
to go watch it immediately.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Minnie, do you have anything you'd like to shout out?
Yeah. So I guess I'll shout out. It's an oldie but a goodie. I don't know if you haven't seen it yet, you should definitely see it. It's called Upload.
Uh-huh.
So the idea is that when you die, your memories, all your thoughts and memories and consciousness and everything can be uploaded to a virtual world. And it sounds amazing, but actual real people are involved, and so therefore there's issues with it. And
what?
Crazy,
what?
right?
Okay, I love this.
And two of the main characters are women of color, so you'll enjoy that as well.
Whoa!
Yeah, it's really good.
It's funny. It's like unexpectedly funny. Yeah,
it's really good.
Wow,
it's a really good show. So Upload.
Okay, Upload. Let me just.
It's on Prime.
And we've been watching it on Prime. Yeah, Amazon Prime.
Upload on Prime. Tight. Okay, so just.
Prime. Amazon. Prime on Amazon.
So just to recap, that is the podcast. That's Why We Drink, wherever you get podcasts. The movie Rustin, it is on Netflix. The program, The Brother's Son, also on Netflix. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, another program, that one's on Prime. And also Upload on Prime. Man, Prime is really killing it right now. Prime and Netflix. Hello. Cancel everything else because they're too expensive anyway. All right. Well, look at that. It's
time.
It's the end of the show.
It's the end.
This was so lovely, though. Minnie, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for letting me join you. It's always fun to do these ones with you guys.
Yeah, it's awesome when you can join us.
I love it when you can join us.
Yeah.
So don't be a stranger.
I won't.
All right. That's it for the show, but where can the people find us in the meantime?
Well, our website is fruitloopspod.com, and we use Fruit Loops Pod for all of our social media. The footnotes for each episode can be found on our website. Plus, check it out for all the different ways that you can support the show. Also, join us on Patreon, where we have literally hundreds of hours of bonus content.
So much.
You can binge and binge and binge. You can also support us by supporting our sponsors or by giving us a 5-star review.
5 stars
only, please. Also, don't forget to subscribe.
Yes.
That's right. Also, I just wanted to remind people, Google Podcast is going away.
Oh, that's right.
If you are subscribed to us right now on Google Podcasts, find another favorite podcast app and subscribe to the show there, okay?
Yeah.
And also, This is a weekly podcast, and new episodes drop every Thursday. So until next time, look alive, y'all. It's crazy out there. Okay. Where are we?
He was doing drugs.
He was doing drugs.
I haven't done that one in a while.
I know.
Oh, did you have something to say?
No. I was
going in the bloopers.
I was gonna just say,
oh man, I'm gonna have fun putting that together.
Don't you say the next part?
Thanks, everybody.
Oh, yeah, I do. Sorry, I skipped it.
Oh, Minnie!
It's me!
Whoa!
That's all right. I was swallowing my teeth. All right.
Get in the zone. Sorry. That... You should put that in the bloopers.
Yeah.
Get in the zone.
Wait a minute. Oh, where was I thinking?
What did I write?
Okay, quick culture. Yeah.
Tawa Koni. And, geez. And.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. I was stuck on Throckmorton Street because it sounded like somewhere in Fraggle Rock.
Oh,
it does.
Down in
Fraggle Rock.
On
That
Throckmorton
show
Street.
was so fucking fire. I miss
love
it
that
so
show. Me
much.
too. I was too old to watch it, but I watched it anyway because I just loved it.
So delightful when that program came on.
I guess that's why. Yeah. Good call.
My God, we collectively
Good call, Wendy.
felt it.
We did. We did.
But I didn't
It
know.
was
how.
magic.
Yeah.
I got my stories mixed up. I was thinking about something else. Okay. Let me do that again.
Hey, by the way, speaking of getting your cases mixed up, when we first started doing this show, I didn't know what episode we were showing up to record a lot of the times. So, I mean, I had done research, but I was like, oh my God. There was even one time I researched the wrong person.
Oh, I remember
completely.
that. Yeah, I remember
that too.
Anyway.
Hi, podcast listeners. I'm Carol Costello, a former CNN anchor and national correspondent. This January, I'm launching a podcast about one of the first cases I ever covered as a journalist. It's one that stuck with me all of these years, the one that buried itself under my skin and stayed put. It's a true crime series about an amazing woman named Phyllis Cottle, who defied torture and death and brought a fierce rage to the quest to find her attacker. Carol Costello Presents Blind Rage is a production of Evergreen Podcasts and signature title of the Killer Podcast Network. Listen and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. Discover more great true crime and paranormal programming at killerpodcast.com.
Hi, this is Amy and Vanessa from She Goes by Jane, where we shine light on the stories of missing and unidentified women. On November 7th, we're sharing Nahida's story for the first time in a podcast. And this is a story that I thought I knew, but after reading police reports, became more complicated than I thought. When investigators are called to Nahida Khatib's house, everything looks fine. Her purse is on the kitchen table, her cup of coffee is on the counter, and her 2-year-old niece is in her playpen. The only thing amiss? Nahida is missing.
Every week we feature a poem written in honor of the person we're talking about. This week we're joined by one of our favorite actresses. You might know her from Sister Act or King of the Hill or The Descendants. But if you're like us, you'll know her from Hocus Pocus. She's the much beloved Kathy Najimy. Join us November 7th to hear Nahida's story.